Welcome everyone. Today we have a pretty massive update for the AUTOBOMBER Infinite Blink Tempoarlis Bloodmage. So looking behind me, I have been working with a Chinese content creator and we gotten pretty good numbers over here. So just as a demonstration, over here you can see his character is now sitting at 0.5 seconds cooldowns for blink with over 4.07 casting speed. He'll be gaining a lot more casting speed during the combat. And just to show you guys a little bit of the fires, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to one of the maps, one of the fastest clears, and we didn't expect this. So over here, this is a tier 16 map, and let's have a look at the speed of the clear of the map. It is incredibly fast, and I think this is one of the fastest clears for a tier 16 map. And that is also including this boss having a 10-second animation before it appears. So there we go, guys. Within 20 seconds of the fight, the boss is gone and we clear the map. So it is a 20-second clear map for one of the fastest AUTOBOMBER. It just gets stuck in the wall. It is one of the fastest AUTOBOMBER blink Bloodmage, and you're doing tremendous damage across the field. And should you want to clear the rest of the map, well, there we go. You see Arbiters, you see any breaches, anything you want to clear, you can just easily destroy everything on the map. And we want to share with you guys the update and also the latest stats. You can see in the combat, his casting speed is at 4.88. We purposely lowered the cooldowns to 0.6, which I'll talk to you guys about the breakpoint, because he needed more casting speed than the cooldown reduction. He was having way too much cooldowns and don't know what to do with it. So he can't really practically benefit on the cooldowns. But you can see, really speedy across the map and pretty much one-shot everything without ever needing to aim. And we can loop the map like 10 times before the bridge even hits the other side. So a really fun build, and we have been testing a lot of varieties for this build, and we want to show you guys what are the changes to the skill passives, how you can be reaching really high cooldown reduction, which will take the burden of the Tempoarlis having higher cooldown, which is a really good thing. To follow from that, we have a lot of testing rounds to show you guys in the breaches how does the build fare with such a low cooldown, which means you'll be zapping across the screen and sometimes even out of the map because you're clearing up so fast. We'll also show you guys the actual the destruction of the boss. So the build has some really strong single target damage because of the Comets and also amount of life lich you can be gaining. So as a demonstration, let's have a look at the Uber boss fight. And that is the Uber boss. So notice that the first few seconds we didn't get the loop going, but once the Comets start to hit, the meteorites start to hit, the boss dies pretty quickly. So just to show you guys again, so the boss didn't have enough HP for us to show the full demonstration. That was within 1 to 2 seconds of the bridge boss. Just to go a little further, over here we have Arbiter of Ashes, and here this boss does have some really strong damage reduction. So we couldn't really demonstrate to you how strong the build is, but you got to see the mobility of the build. Having such a low cooldown, you have so much error or space for error to dodge his one-shot abilities, and you can pretty much do this, jumping across the map, into the circles, out of the circles, and then taking down the boss within seconds. So very enjoyable against the Uber bosses, and of course the biggest highlight is how fast it can clear maps. It can allow you to pass through maps super fast, which means you can be traveling through the others, hunting for the deadly bosses, or hunting for valuable maps or special content that to allow you to clear the maps at extreme strong mobility. So as requested, and I'm very thankful, our Chinese content creator friend has being able to record and also reveal all the stats of the current gears. So funny enough, we actually combined both of our gears. I had some gears that he didn't use, so I shared some of my gears to him while he was using some of his older, stronger gears. So you get to see the exact stats of all of his gears during this particular fight. And this will allow you to understand what stage he's at and how can he get such a low cooldowns and how does he have such a high damage. At the same time, as you scroll over, he'll be showing you all the supporting gems, and together over here with all the links and also all the jewels together with any unique items that is used in a passive tree. Of course, you can see his passive ascension. So if you guys haven't seen our previous video, in that video we explain a lot in terms of the choices of skills, items, so make sure you watch the previous video. I spent about 35 minutes explaining. Make sure to use the timestamps to make it faster. And if you want to check out the Chinese content creator over here with Dan Wu, he does have a BiliBili channel which shows you his previous setup, which is a little slower but still one of the fastest in the meta with Chinese players. So make sure you use the links to check out his BiliBili. Now, what I recommend is checking out our last video in terms of a cheaper setup for the AUTOBOMBERs. Why is that? Because if you come over to the builder's guide over here, I have taken the time, the effort, and an entire hour to explain the reasons behind the step-by-step process to timestamp every single item to show you guys how the cheaper variant works. So if you come over here, I explain why it's possible to make 1.7 second works, but ideally you want 1.8 second Tempoarlis. And if you click on any of those links, you can see a cheaper variant that to get you started if you ever want to get into this build. Now, I'm not saying you'll be super strong, but you get to enjoy this build to see whether you're budgeting for those items. And that particular video will help you a lot to understand what budget would you need and what are the items that can be found in cheaper in different variants and even different passive jewels, even different items that can be a better alternative and also a cheaper version. So instead of paying 65 divine, you can potentially pay for something of like less than 1 divine over here. So make sure you check out the previous 2 videos because that will greatly enhance your understanding from the first video and also experience in wanting to try out the build yourself. And even if you have already started the build, maybe some of those trade filters can help you find better items because there's over 20 trade filters I have made for you guys. So come over to the cheaper variant and come over to the build variant. You get to see all the trade filters. Now that we have talked about the trade filters, what I want to do is I do want to briefly go over the choices of items and also the latest changes. So what has changed or what hasn't changed with our build and how come we have such a lower cooldown reduction. So the builder's guide is updated for the new latest variant with 0.15 and also 0.16, one of the fastest in the server with Path of Exile 2 this season to have such low cooldowns with the blink and how you can benefit from this. So I have some breakpoints to explain to you guys. So let's get into the actual updated content. If you haven't seen the previous one, do recommend it because we're skipping ahead forward a little bit. So briefly understanding what is happening, just in case you haven't seen the previous video, we have 2 auto-casting abilities. Spell Slinger is coming from the dueling wand, from this particular weapon that is providing us with auto-casting ability with Spell Slinger. For using Spell Slinger to auto-cast Spark, which in return will trigger Lightning Bolt, which in return will trigger AoE effect coming from the Trample Toe. I had a boot swap so I can move faster. The Trample Toe doesn't need to be 3-socketed and there's a lot of ways to make it cheaper. Second to that, in terms of higher damage against bossing, we have close to 100% or even overcapping 100% critical chance. So we have a manual casting Spark that triggers Comets and also Lightning Bolts at the same time, which allows you to melt bosses. So effectively, you have 2 auto-triggering abilities where the Spell Slinger is pretty much free coming from the weapon, while the cast on critical gives you tremendous boss damage. Now, the biggest drawback and also the biggest flaw of the build is the cost of the build, which in the previous video will help you guys to break it down to go with cheaper versions. Having a higher cooldown Tempoarlis will help you a lot, but here are the ways in this video that will teach you how to lower its cooldowns. The first major changes is coming from those Darkness Enthroned belt. So you can see in the video demonstration, which my Chinese friend also shares all the links, I actually gave him my belt to try it out, and it is successfully and wonderfully powerful. So this belt, it doesn't have to be 118 because that only gives you, I think, 2% more. You can easily go with 100% and socketing for the skill effect Helmet Ruin, which gives 8%, that translates into 32%, and that belt plus the ruin itself will cost 1 divine, or close to less than 1 divine, if you just go for 100%. And should you guys want to see the cheaper variant over here, the belt itself is available for you to have a look. I even have a trick filters to show you guys the belt. Actually, yeah, it's about 8 annulment or maybe 1 to 2 divine and starting with 100%. So how does the build work is that the build will tremendously reduces the cooldowns of Blink. So should you guys have trouble with higher cooldowns on Tempoarlis, notice I'm currently on 0.36. Onto this build, I am now sitting onto 0.31. So massive reduction to cooldowns. And this of course sacrifices the Headhunter, but sometimes you might not need the Headhunter as badly. To move on this, we have transitioned from the unique gloves over here. So previously, the 3-socket unique gloves was too expensive. Now that we can find a lot of cooldowns coming from the build, I want to again explain the reason behind casting speed and also cooldown reduction. This particular 3-socketed gloves was giving us 24% casting speed. Now, if you come over to this particular rear socketing of gloves, which I lended my gloves to the Chinese content creator, he was able to achieve 48% casting speed. So the gloves itself has instant leech for our life leeching capacities. It also provides us with 100% effect of socketed gems with tons of life, and also some energy shield. So those ruins are very cheap. The gloves won't be cheap, of course, but this compensated for the lack of casting speed by having too much cooldown reduction. So how you want to understand the cooldown reduction and also casting speed is that if you have a lower cooldown reduction like 0.36 and you have a 3.6 casting speed, what is going to happen is, let's have a look at some of the calculations I made previously. If you use 1 to divide by 0.36, this shows you the minimum breakpoint, the minimum casting speed you need to make use of your cooldowns. So if my casting speed is not 2.77 spells per second, that means I can't even enjoy my lower cooldowns lower than 3.6. And here what you can see is my casting speed is 3.6 before combat. It probably goes to 4 during combat because of the ruins and also everything related. So that means I can enjoy even lower cooldowns. So now if I put this on, I am sitting on 0.31. So let's have a look at 0.31. 1 divided by 0.31 will give us 3.22. That is great. So that means I am enjoying the higher values of my casting speed. Now, if we come back to the video over here, you can see that our Chinese friend is showing us that his cooldowns are 0.15. And what that means is having a 0.15 cooldowns, you need a lot higher casting speed. It's like a bucket effect. You need a lot of higher casting speed, close to 6.6% to actually make use of this such a low cooldown. And because of that, in actual practice, even though he has gotten 0.15 cooldowns for your blink, he's not really having the casting speed to compensate for such a fast blinking speedy. So in that sense, he purposely lowered his casting speed back to 0.16, and he still needed 6.25 casting speed, which is very hard to find. We're still looking for more casting speed for him. But you can see in the videos, you can't really tell between 0.15 or 0.16. But we do believe 0.15 is by far one of the fastest AUTOBOMBER cooldowns in the entire region. And during the season, of course, in the previous seasons, it goes to 0, right? So that said, what else can help you with cooldowns? So because we understand there's a lot of players out there who might not have his particular Tempoarlis, which rolls into 2.2 seconds. If you have a Tempoarlis that's 1.7 or 1.8, this is when this video will be especially helpful. Let me try to explain a little further. So we talk about the belt, we talk about the gloves over here. Now we're going to talk about a number of items which are also lended to my friend. One of the reasons I had all the cooldown reduction items is because in my build, my budget build look into cooldown reduction, while his high-end build look into more casting speed because they have enough cooldowns. And I was like, why don't we combine our items to make a super low cooldown? So one of the ways you can find more casting speed is finding different Mega Maniac diamond that gives you more cooldown recovery, and that can greatly enhance the cooldowns of your abilities. So let me show you guys over here. You have 0.31 because of the belt. If I take this off, and over here I am sitting on 0.33. So this particular socketing just for one passive give me quite a bit of cooldown reduction. And similarly, you can be finding more cooldown reductions coming from the Heart of the World Diamond. This rose to 18%, but it rose even higher than 18% cooldown recovery. Now, if you wonder about those items, I have made the filters for you guys. So let's look into the filters. It's very helpful to have the filters, right? So if you click on the cooldown reaction, you can see that it rolls to 20% sometimes. Now, people do sell it for much higher, but the other ones, it's like 7%, even with critical chance. And here's some other stuff you might not need. So you could be trying to craft one yourself, or try to roll and also corrupt one that can be very profitable. So here are a number of ways you can find more cooldown reduction, especially for a low-rolled Tempoarlis chess piece. Now, to go further from here, as you're going to see in the actual replay footage that my friend was demonstrating to us, there's a number of knots he purposely perked in for better cooldown reduction. One of the best ones are over here for 5% and also 16% cooldown recovery. To go from that, you can come over here for another 10% cooldown recovery, and then there is a number of cooldown recoveries that is in this region. To just show you guys the ones that is in this region, we do have another trade filter. Yes, I'm the guy who made all the trade filters. So where are we? Let's have a look. We want, what is it? It's a Mega Maniac. Mega Maniac. Where are we? So what did I put the Mega Maniac? Oh, here it is. The Mega Maniac trick filters are made for you guys. If you click into it, you can see there is a bunch of filters, and including over here the filters starting with Distracting Presence and starting with the rest of them, there is, okay, those are expensive, but you don't have to do both. I'm trying to do multiples. You can see there's 10% cooldown recovery, there's another 16% cooldown recovery, and there is 16% cooldown recovery, 10% cooldown recovery. So there's a ways of finding more cooldown recovery coming from those juice. But I'm not saying you should be buying the most expensive ones, but rather using the filters to filter to see what suits you the most. Sometimes you can be getting the knots over here. This is when those two knots are included because it will give you a free spirit. Having free spirit means that you can potentially not having a valved helmet for spirit. And once those free up your helmet for spirit, you can then get a 2-socket or even a 3-socket helmet and then socket in for cooldown reduction. So it's exchange. If you find ways of finding more spirit, then you can find ways of getting more cooldown reduction. Similarly, you can get a 2-socketed valved or corrupted focus, which will give you double the cooldown reduction. We do have the trade filter for this as well, so let's have a look over here. +4 focus are very expensive, but if you go with a 2-socket focus over here, then sometimes they come with 3 sockets, you can socket in cooldown reduction. So 2 of those sockets, 16 Exalt. So here we purposely got +3, notice that, and 2 sockets, 60 Exalt. Let's look into 3 sockets. And all 3 of those sockets can be socketed for cooldown reduction for even better experience. Okay, 2 Divines, 3 sockets, you can get 30% cooldown reduction. And that, as I demonstrated in the previous video, gives you so much more cooldowns to your blink to achieve the rest of your cooldown needs. So, in summary, because I did spend a little more time on this part, which I think is quite important, what the new build is trying to do is, the new build is trying to find you more cooldown recovery, that means lower cooldowns for blink. But to understand the breakpoint of how casting speed works with cooldown recovery, you really have to balance how much casting speed you have with how much cooldown recovery you have. Because just having the cooldowns without the casting speed, that means you can't cast as many blinks as you wanted. I can cast a lot of blinks. You can see here, I can cast a lot of blinks and my energy goes up. I can be casting a lot of spells while doing that, which is great. This is only achieved because I'm matching both of my casting speed together with cooldown recovery. So hence you have to do the calculations yourself, do 1 divided by your cooldown, and then look at what is the casting speed you needed for your build. Of course, the build has to be smooth. So focus on cooldowns when you can for the build to be smooth. You want to blinking at least 2 to 3 times, likely 3 times a second, and once you can blink 3 times a second, it feels smooth, and then you look into casting speed, and that will be the ideal version. So we're not expecting you to have all the same gears as my Chinese content creator friend, because we merged 2 gears from my account to his account, and we shared all the gears to make the possibility of this lower cooldown version work, but it is still very great. So that said, I spent a little more time explaining that, but we do believe that this is the most important part. So what I do now is, as he hover over his previous gears, or the gears we merged, let's have a look at the gears together, and I'll try to stat prioritize. So Very expensive to find a 3-socketed dueling round with +4. A cheaper version will be a +3 and having +3 skills. And here we do have the budgeting. I don't want to go over budgeting too much, but I think it's important. +4 is very expensive. If you look into the other variants that I showed you guys over here, it is much cheaper. So the round will give you a lot more damage, of course, but it's over 400 divines. So we explained about the helmet. You can potentially don't have the velvet helmet to find even more cooldown reduction. And the helmet can give you a lot of much needed resistance. Now, in terms of the Choir of the Storm, the Jade Amulet with fast metabolism +1 to all skills is ideally the best in slot amulet, but we cannot recommending you to buy this amulet because at the time when my friend was doing this one, it is much cheaper in the market. Now people are price fixing over 1000 divine to charge for this amulet, so it is definitely not worth it at the moment to look into this. And personally, I am just using a 1 to 2 divine amulet with all resist. Take the burden of all resist, that means I don't need 3-socketed boots. It's not the biggest deal to lose the +1, so definitely something to consider. But having the +1 means more damage and also more cooldowns for your blink. And here with the focus, we mentioned that +4 is great, but +2 with 2-socket will give you 20% cooldowns. +3 with 3-socket is 30% cooldowns. And to go from that, you want to have really strong and high critical chance with the particular unique ring. The critical damage is great, but it is a critical chance. To have high critical chance, the modifier quality needs to be caster modifier that gives you 69 or even 70% critical chance. That would be great. Again, those trait filters are in the builder's guide. Now, I have recommended over -1.8 at least cooldowns. It is possible to go -1.7, but you're really pushing it because you have to find so much more cooldowns. So my friend here had -2.28. By the time I was looking for Tempoarlis, I was happy to find a -2. So those are much more expensive. Look into something like -1.9 if you can, and you'll have the best experience from them. And in terms of Tempoarlis, I did forget to mention. So let's go back to this Tempoarlis. Actually, I have a Tempoarlis too. Let me show you guys over here. What are the socketing for Tempoarlis? I did ask the same question. Why 36% evasion or energy shield? Why don't we go with maximum life? It's because the higher rolls of the energy shield, which I didn't get the maximum roll, it's only 110, and with quality, we're sitting on 279 energy shield. But with our ascension, this particular maximum energy shield also gives us maximum life. So look at my life. If I take this off, I lose a lot of life. I lose like 200 plus life. So this is a defensive ascension. You could go with even higher ascension over here, but we don't like the damage, so it's better to make the build more defensive. As we keep going, and you can see his gears are very high-ended because he bought the gears much earlier and he also spent a lot of good divines. So we have looked into changing the rings to compensate for the lack of casting speed. Notice that both of us are looking into rings that provide us with more casting speed. The 24% casting speed while the tier 1 rolls together with this special modified ring that gives you a lot of resistance when needed is one of the best in slot in the market. I have links for those rings. People are price fixing or people are crafting those rings for over 50 divines, but there is a cheaper variant if you guys want to look into ones without all those high-end stats. So I'll leave it to you guys to look into those items. I don't want to go back to those items because the previous video we talked about houses before. Here we're just looking at the stats and what is great for this particular build. In terms of the gloves, you want the high maximum life. You can see we have over 170 maximum life. You definitely want 3-socketed and you want the 100% socketed item effect. To go from that, 15% leech is great. You can find this on the wheel jewel, which is also great. So here, the belt itself will give you 32 to 34% cooldown reduction. Triple toe definitely do not need 3 sockets because the difference is just 15% or 10% all resist, but the price is 200 divine difference. Now, the potion here is just for the animation. So the two of the charms we're using is one anti-freeze, one anti. So the 2 charm that is recommended is that, if I put this in correctly, so 2 charm recommended is one anti-stun, one anti-freeze, and then if you have the budget, going with the wolf charm will provide you, this is the wolf charm, going with the wolf charm will provide you with more casting speed. increasing skill speed 15%, which is a pretty hefty increase of casting speed. And everything else, we don't really need that. We just wanted the skill speed so you can make usage of your lower cooldowns. But other than that, if you want to go defensive, Spirit of the Bear is not bad. 20% more life, and also 20% damage reduction. Not cheap though, but definitely something worthwhile to invest once you have the budget. You can see he's using those over here. Other resolve, just be more defensive, nothing too special about this potion. So all the skill links is available in the builder's guide, so I won't be going them over in this video, but you can see very similar to the previous setup. Nothing has changed over here. We do plan to change the skills a little bit in the future, but not tested in this particular run. So you can see the passives over here, and you can see he's using some of my juice which are focused on cooldown reduction. For example, over here, the juice over here, actually, I'll just show you my juice because he was using my juice because his juice will focus on damage, right? So the juice we have, Deep Trace is recommended because this lowers the cost of my Comets. We talked about in the previous video, my Comets currently cost 2000 life and I have over 2200 life. That means I have the life to cast the Comets. So if I take this off, my Comets now cost 2300 life and I don't have the life to cast my Comets. So this is an essential one to have at least Deep Trace. Follow from that, multitasking gives me cooldown reduction. But this one is just a bonus, this is not that needed. There's other ways of finding reductions to life cost because right now it's super hard to find the Deep Trace juice. We're working on this and I want to be testing a little more to explain to you guys. So at the moment, if you can't find cooldown reduction and also Deep Trace, you can find Deep Trace elsewhere. You can try to find Deep Trace by anointing. You can try to find Deep Trace through the single Mega Maniac Jew. And I'll just show you guys how to do that because just in case you guys are not sure, we come over to Mega Maniac. It's Mega Maniac. Here, you come over to this Jew filter I made for you guys over here. You come over here, instead of clicking everything, you type, oh, I already typed it, you click Deep Trace over here. This guarantees that at least any juice you're searching will come with Deep Trace. And then you click over here. It doesn't have any, right? Because I'm wanting the secondary stat. But if I unclick the secondary stat, there's over 137 that starts with Deep Trace in case you don't have the life to cast your Comets. Because if you can't have the life to cast your Comets, you're not doing cast on critical damage. Very important. Over here, you don't need the maximum roll, but it will help, the 12% over here. And here I'm only using 1 because I valved my helmet to... I got the valve helmet, I didn't valve this myself. I got the valve helmet to 30, so the breakpoint at the moment is having 142 spirit. This only works because we have the Dallas Desire support. If this support is over here, we need more spirit. So at the moment, 142 is enough for me. So 12 over here, 30 over here, and base spirit is 100. To follow from that, the Heart of the Wheel. Heart of the Wheel Diamond, I will mention earlier, can roll into Lich is instant. Because we're not using the unique gloves, both gloves and also Heart of the Wheel give us Lich is instant. And that means when you are hitting enemies, especially using your Comets, which cost a lot of life, instant Lich means instant cast of Comets. And if you look into the boss fights over here, there's multiple demonstration of boss fights. And let me find one of them to give you guys a better understanding. Where are we? Okay. So here we have the boss fight. I'll lower the volume a little bit. When the boss fights, the instant Lich enables you to cast continuous Comets, which loops around in insane amount of single target damage. If you don't have instant Lich, you won't be able to do this. So let's have a look. And notice at the start, you're hitting one Comets because you don't have the life for it. But once you get the ball rolling, those are like 10 Comets in a row, right? So this is why you want a bit of instant Lich. We have theory crafted, 15% may be just enough, but if you can find the bows on the diamond over here, that's really good. So I'm sitting on about 28% of instant Lich. After that, it is a bonus to have the cooldown reduction, and then it is also great to have more critical chance, because you lose about 45 to 50% critical chance not using the unique gloves. Go from that, I did share my double critical juice with my friend as well, simply because he had critical damage, but once he took off the unique gloves, he is now looking for the critical chance, because that took off his balance of critical chance. So just to show you guys what I mean by this, if we come over to his previous setup, which is the previous one, he was using those gloves that provided him 50% critical chance. This can be valued even higher. But because he now uses the new speedy version with these gloves, he now gains more critical damage, but he loses critical chance. And that is found through those particular Sapphire Diamonds. So previously, his Sapphire Diamond had critical chance for spells and also critical damage for spells, right? So now in the new versions, the Sapphire Diamond now have double critical chance to compensate for critical chance. It is very important to mention that if you're checking your critical chance, you want at least over 90% or 95%. So this way in combat, you'll be sitting on 100% critical chance, and that will greatly charges your cast on critical that loops in more comments that destroy bosses. So you can see in my build, I even found more critical chance over here, and also even more critical chance nodes that is over here, and also even more critical chance over here. I purposely didn't take the negative critical chance mods, even though that gives me a lot of damage, because I'm purposely trying to cap my critical chance to 100. So I will be greatly increasing damage over here, but I needed the critical chance, right? And also I don't have enough skill ranks. I'm only level 95 over here. Now, let's keep going. I think we pretty much finished with the juice. For those of you that want to see the rest of the juice, you can see over here. So very similar to what I was using, and he had more casting speed on the juice. So it is possible to find 4% casting speed on those sapphires. Once you have enough cooldowns, finding more casting speed means actual real practical benefit to your build. We spoke about this in the previous part, and he was able to valve this himself. This have 5 different affixes that is good. This is super rare, right? Critical chance, casting speed, critical damage, energy shield, and additional energy shield to focus. So finally, you can see that he was using the simplified form of the Undying Hate Timeless Dew. He haven't had the time and also the chance to change into the version I have, but I want to show you guys my version. So if you want even lower cooldown reduction, you can come over and try to craft this yourself, or I make a crafting guide to teach you guys how to craft this one with Ancient Reserve. Ancient Reserve gives you double cooldown, give you double blink charges. So even though I have my blink is 0.36, I effectively have 2 blinks for 0.36 cooldowns. So this is why I can afford to have more casting speed, and my 0.36 is more like 0.2 if you think about it, because I have like, if I cast one blink, the other one start to go on cooldown, I go off cooldown while the second one is free to cast. So this gives me even more blink, and this is why I don't need super low blink, because of the Ancient Reserve. This is a hitting method. I want to really teach you guys how to make this Dew very, very powerful. Together with the ability to socket over here, I was able to find more energy shield, even more energy shield. Additional tribute really helps to save the points, and even higher cooldown reduction, which is incredible. I have videos to teach you how to do the seeding, how to do the crafting, so make sure you use the links below to take this build even further. Now, during the recording, my Chinese friend didn't have the time or the skill points to allocate for my Timeless Dew, so we didn't use the Timeless Dew. So effectively, even without my Timeless Dew, he was sitting on 0.15 to optimize his cooldowns, but he wasn't getting enough casting speed, which is the next project for us to work on. Now, let's have a look at in terms of the actual combat. In terms of the actual combat, it is very straightforward. So I have mentioned about this just in case you guys forgot about this. So here, Spell Slinger, you have to press this right. So as you blink around, Spell Slinger will gain charges. And you can see over here, maybe if I move my head a little bit, Spell Slinger will gain charges. And you can be casting Spell Slinger while you're blinking, so it doesn't have any delays or animation. But it's a little harder. We always like to do this, and I think this is a really cool method. So I basically come over here, come over to my Spell Slinger, change the hotkey to space, and now as I press space, Spell Slinger is auto-casted. While I press space, I blink and cast Spell Slinger at the same time. Even better, right? So this is some nice little trick, and the faster you click, the faster spells gets casted, because you have lower cooldowns. Now, do be aware, we have noticed, if you spam click your spacebar, sometimes the game will kick you out because of you inputting too much. And this is purely by hand, not running anything funny. So if you spam click too much, the game won't be happy about it. So do be careful with this. This will also break your spacebar. So, coming over to the skill rotations and also tips on the game itself. So we have 2 of the ruins of the charms that protects you from stun, protects you from freeze. Other than that, so the protection from frozen, protection from stun, and combined with the potion, you should be almost unkillable as long as you don't blink into something that one-shots you. And you're also sitting on very high energy shield. You can see my friend sacrifice energy shield for damage and also for more mobility with lower cooldowns. I went for more energy shield for survivability, but nevertheless, it is still great. So, skill rotations, well, you just want to see where you're blinking. You're blinking quite fast, of course. So, you can spam blink and you just go across the map. You don't even have to look back, everything will just die because of Tempoarlis, which is great. And this really allows you to fast forward. So that was the entire map within 10 seconds. And once you get to the boss, the combination is to cast your Sigil of Power together with your curses on the ground before the boss comes, and you start spamming your spells using Menu Spark. And then when the boss comes, once your comments start to hit, notice only 2 comments hits, the 10 other comments didn't even get to hit, the boss is dead. So once you get to the boss, I haven't set up the weapon swap yet, but I think here the builder's guide should have my friend's weapon swap. So passive tree. Secondary weapon swap is designed for you to be having stronger. Oh, it's not loading. Oh, it's loading. Perfect. So notice there's a green line, there's a red line. The red lines are the main weapons for more damage and also casting speed, while the green lines are here for AoE radius and also duration of your spells. So you do want to set up, I'm sure you guys know this, but just in case you forgot about this, we have Sigil Power, which is set up to the secondary weapon because it's on the secondary weapon, but you also need spells to bring it back. So vulnerability is set on the secondary weapon, while your spark is set on the first weapon. So this means once we cast the Sigil Power, cast this, and you cast your spark, you come back to the right weapon. Now you can notice that my radius is not massive because I didn't get time to set up the secondary weapon swap yet, but the builder's guide should have this available for you guys. And that is the whole combination. You have a spell for bossing of really strong rares or uniques, but you rarely need it. Most of the other times, you just have to make sure you don't blink into the walls. And here, all the monsters on the map, you're just literally blinking and they're just dead. So this is one of the by far the best experience of AUTOBOMBERs. And now that we have solved, technically helped with lower cooldowns on blink and achieved super insane lower blink cooldowns, as you can see during combat, even though we're sitting on 0.16 blink, we're sitting on 4.88 casting speed. We're trying to push casting speed to 6 for him, and this will make usage of all the blink cooldowns he has to go even faster. Not sure if the human eye can actually see this. So he literally looped around the map within seconds, and he looped onto the other side of the bridge too. Really fun build. So we're very excited to show you guys what we worked on in the past few days and all the testings with multiple footages of the Uber bosses, bossings, and also mappings will be available, and you can see all the items over here. So make sure you use the timestamps in the video and then come over to the final part to see all the links related to the video. I do strongly recommending watching the previous 2 videos because it teaches you about budgeting, it teaches you about the mechanics should you want to improve the build yourself, and finally, I have spent hours, oops, that was the previous video. I have spent hours to make the new budget trait filters. All the items, I made a cheaper variant of a trait filters to get you started. But please do watch that video to understand why minus 1.77 could work. I'm not promising it will work. You will need a lot of cooldown reduction to compensate for the lower cooldowns. I recommend at least 1.8 or even 1.9 for the best experience. So please do enjoy the build and also in the guide, and let me know in the comments how you guys are finding this one, because our next goal is to make this build even faster with casting speed and also even smoother in terms of everything related to the game. Now hopefully you guys found today's video helpful. Again, a big thank you to everyone on YouTube, especially our supporters and also those of you guys who's been supporting me on Patreon as well. And we do have a new feature on the Majestic YouTube channel. If you click onto this, you can become a member. Yes, I've added this just recently, and this will allow you to have early access to videos that is posted a few hours or even half a day earlier if you want to watch those videos a little early. But yes, this will cost money. So please be aware the membership will cost money. And if you do want to watch videos normally, those videos will still be available after 6 to 12 hours, normally on the time we post those videos. And I'll be aiming to post at least one Path of Exile video a day, and this will be including guides, tips, news update, and also the latest tricks that is discovered on both the English and also Chinese community to keep you guys updated. And if you like those videos, make sure you leave a nice comment and also leave a like for those videos.
Too soon. I need more time. Soon! Another corpse to serve me. Not yet. Too soon! Not yet. I need more time! Not yet.
We that dreamed, we in nightmare, we that are one. Fate lies strong, we that fail. The fourth edict already burns for your world. Fields of ash and chasms of flame shall restore her glory. In significance, this is the legacy of humanity. The Mother Soul must.
I can create this. I need more time. Not yet. Such a pathetic end. Not yet. I need more time. Too soon! I need more time. I need more time. I need more time.
Now, before we finish, if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so because I'll be looking into the latest Path of Exile 2 news on different communities and also on our official forum, official webpage. I'll also be looking into the best build for each of the class as the meta develops with the Chinese and also the English community. So stay tuned for the latest update and also guides for Path of Exile 2. And of course, this is gonna be a big month for us. And I'll try to bring you guys all of the latest content and also guides for Path of Exile 2 to come.